it looks almost like the same spot. Now, there are several vehicles in front of him, but I don't think they're going to stop him. The officers are not going to put themselves in harm's way to stop this guy by allowing him to run into a vehicle that they are in. Now, I have seen the LAPD one time commandeer a semi and put it on an intersection so that the suspect couldn't get past that semi. I don't think they've done it before. I've seen it. It was in the valley. But when he turns around and comes back towards officers, if they're out of the vehicle, they may let the vehicle there and get away, or they may open fire on the suspect if you try to drive into a vehicle that they're next to. But if he comes back at them head on, they're going to get out of the way. There's no sense in them getting hurt to stop this, and anybody surrounding them as well, especially at these speeds. So we're back in that same area. We're eastbound on Florence. If you know where the Postal Annex is in South LA, it's been right around that area. And moments ago, I don't know if you noticed, but there were a lot of people outside watching the pursuit go by at one of those intersections. So it looks like the word is out that this is happening. So if you have kids, keep them indoors. They don't need to be outside in this area. That's correct. That was the Harbor Freeway. There's no question about that. It is frightening, and I've said this several times, but well, look at that. He just can't control that pickup truck at that high rate of speed. You mentioned it, Philip. You can't be doing 65 miles an hour in that thing and then think you're going to make an immediate right turn. You're going to spin out. But, it's frightening because we've seen this happen. A guy this desperate, he makes a turn like that. There's a pedestrian in the intersection, and that person gets killed. I mean, it's easy. We've seen it so many times to lose control of a vehicle at that rate of speed. I mean, what we really hope for is, this just gets over and they give themselves up. Well, the other option is, they make a run for it. They stop the vehicle and they get out on foot. At least now you're not dealing with this vehicle that is endangering the public. Push in, please. That's the information that we got, Philip. But, these things are so dynamic. And, look at the people out taking photos and taking pictures and video. And, and look at that vehicle right there. Open up a little bit. Is that guy trying to follow him in the Cadillac SUV there? It looked almost like they were trying to do that. I'm not certain. But look at the people coming out on the street, knowing this is happening, knowing the area. And back to your question, the report was from the LAPD. They believed it was a female, but that has not obviously been confirmed in a male driver. No, I mean, it's a stolen vehicle. There would be little to no way for them to know that at this point in time, unless they were able to get a description or one of the officers recognized this individual as wanted. To know if he might have a weapon, but I think in this type of situation, they're going to assume that both of those individuals inside that vehicle are armed. Yeah. Exactly. We know it was picked up, we believe. We know for certain it was a pursuit on the 10 at Atlantic in Monterey Park, that Alhambra, Monterey Park area. Yeah, absolutely. It certainly is. We are eastbound on 69th, westbound on 69th. It's East 69th, so you turn back westbound. So the pattern remains, look at that, though. Boy, there's a lot of people outside. And I guess they just don't realize how erratic this guy is. And even the construction workers know it's going on. He makes one of those little turns when you've got 4 or 5 people there taking videos and he loses control of the car. Yeah, well, we're going to get somebody killed with just, look at that. He loses control again. There might have been a spike strip there. That could have been the same spot. It looks like that may have been the same street that he keeps coming down that they set up the spike strip. I don't know if he hit it that time or if he just hit the brakes to divert it or if he just saw the officer there and he hit the brakes to divert coming too close to that patrol car. But if it was a spike strip that he ran over, we'll start to see evidence of that in a moment. Evidence like that, he just can't control the vehicle. There's something going on with that vehicle because he wasn't traveling at such a high rate of speed there. I don't believe that he couldn't have controlled it. Either his driving has gotten worse or when he hits the brakes are locking up on him. Maybe some sort of damage from the accidents he was involved in. One hitting the center median and then the other crash running into that poor person getting north on the southbound 110 there at Manchester. Oh boy, it could have been a close one. They made the right into there. There's officers right there. Boy, that's a brazen move. Oh my goodness. Boy, there's a spike strip. Thank you, Jay. There was a spike strip there. He came down the same street. Correct. The one time he hit the brakes, he skidded out, got around it. This time he came right down the same street again and then diverted into that what appeared to be a gas station to get through there right next to officers. And boy, I tell you, you know, those officers are standing there. If it looks like the vehicle's traveling at them, their guns are drawn, they're going to open fire on these two. That's a possibility. Now, he had the option to get on the 110 northbound, but right now it looks like we're on that surface street that parallels the 110. Open up a little bit right there next to the Harbor Freeway, an area that is east of the Harbor Freeway. And I haven't seen it yet, but I think if he continues on, this will come to a cul-de-sac at one point. We'll have to see where Grand actually ends. It does run quite a ways without it running into any problems. It goes all the way up towards Slauson, I believe, before that happens. So he's got some time. Boy, there he stopped. Not certain exactly why. Sometimes when it stops, we'll see somebody get out, but I don't believe that happened. We still see someone in the passenger seat there. Did he stop under that? There's no on-ramp there either. He must be on Flower if he didn't stop underneath there. Let's get to... Yeah, he got onto Flower. He got onto Flower 110 southbound. So, boy, we got a pattern. You see the damage to the back left portion of the vehicle. That's where he spun out trying to get off down by Rosecrans. He's gotten back off of the freeway, though. This may be Manchester that he's coming up on right now. And going around that vehicle, and I don't even believe the patrol cars are right behind him. And that's an interesting scenario when you start to think about it, because even when they go to tracking mode, there is a patrol car there behind him, but even when they did decide to go to surveillance and back off and have no patrol cars next to him, he continued to drive just as erratically as he's driving right now. Spinning. Yeah, you wonder, Giovanna, sometimes when this stays in the same area, if it's somebody who just doesn't want attention. I mean, obviously, if you, well, you know, we're assuming here you're giving any logic whatsoever to the suspect. But if your thought process, I'm going to get away, your thought process is, I'm going to get away from the police, this certainly isn't the way to do it, logically. So you wonder when you watch these things, maybe it's just, look at that, into oncoming traffic on the motorcycle. I mean, you're so vulnerable on a bike. I mean, it just would be an instant death almost if you had a head-on collision. You wonder if it's not attention getting. You know, we've seen that. Usually when you, look at this, going to be a tough situation right here. And when he hits the brakes, the vehicle locks up. I don't know if it's his driving ability or if when he hits the brakes, the vehicle just swerves on him. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really crazy what we're witnessing here. And what I was saying is, in some cases, the pursuits I've followed in the past, or we've covered, when a person was just doing it to get attention, they were usually driving pretty slow. And it just kept going on and on and on because the police didn't want to stop it. But there was really no danger to the public in most of those. If this guy's doing this just to get attention and not to get away, then, I mean, it really just leads you to another mindset that is just off. You know, well, why would you do that? But, you know, you see that 84 miles an hour on Broadway, headed northbound in South Los Angeles. And if he stays with his same pattern, he's going to make a right turn here pretty soon and go back down towards the Postal Annex, back, we're still east of the 110 freeway, but back towards further south in South LA instead of heading north up towards downtown now. Yep. Oh, here's a stop. Here's a construction sign and a tight squeeze. Going to hit that vehicle to get by. He was able to just drive over the cones there. That's a good push in. There's a good shot of our driver, at least one of the best shots we've had of him so far, a real tight shot. And as you mentioned earlier, you know, we just don't know the relationship. It almost looks, I can't quite tell. We don't know the relationship between the driver and the passenger, just that according to the LAPD, they believe it's a man driving and there's a woman in the passenger seat. She could be, you know, held against her own will. It's possible. We don't know that. Or they could be together. They could have stole the vehicle together. It's just so dynamic. There's so many ifs in a situation like this. Makes it really tough for the police. He's a little further north than he was before. We're on Vernon, but he'd been on Vernon before, most of the time east of the 110 freeway. But once again, it started way out in, as far as we know, in Monterey Park. That's where we believe the CHP ran the plate and noticed that it was stolen. Where? Yeah. Yep, absolutely. We're in a little different area. We're almost in the Exposition Park area, a little bit west, and where there's some indecision there. Wanting to make a turn to deciding the opposite, you know, you start to wonder if drugs and alcohol could be involved with the driver in a situation like this. But now we're like in Exposition Park, if you will. We're southbound on Normandy, leaving Vernon. Now we're west of the 110, where most of that activity for 20, 30 minutes going around in circles was east of the Harbor Freeway. It could get challenging for us in a few scenarios with traffic going into LAX, and we may have a difficult time with that. Now, the LAPD helicopter won't, for the most part, because he'll be able to stay lower, but we have to have distance from that LAPD helicopter, and then we won't be able to maintain that that spacing with the helicopter and then not be too close to the airliners coming into LAX. If he continues south on Normandy, it's just a possibility here we'll have to go around. Oh boy, oh boy. Oh good. We still have 45 minutes or so. All right. Yeah. We stopped here. Why? If you see it's a cul-de-sac, let me know. Do you have a hat on? Oh boy. Oh, there he lost control again. Okay, this will end up in a cul-de-sac if he continues. Keep an eye on him. He's out from those trees. Oh no, he'll get back on flower. Oh, look at this. It's going to be tight. Oh my. Oh, they're stopped in the intersection. Are they going to get out? Oh, there's no somebody there. May have known somebody there. Oh boy, this is going to be a tough situation. This is some narrow street down here. They may be able to drop this, block this off. Well, we're in an industrial area on 61st, back close to the same area as that before, and there's going to be a tight squeeze through here. There's a semi right in front of them you're going to see here in a moment. And if LAPD can get a unit down at the end of this street, they could actually block them off. I don't know if they're going to have time, but the helicopter could be able to radio that ahead. If we open up a little bit, you'll see what's in store here. It's a street through an industrial area, and it comes out just north of the Postal Annex in South Los Angeles. But it doesn't look like they were able to get a unit there in time. They could have maybe possibly shut that down. There was no real routes off of that street, off the 61st Street. But we're now turning southbound. Looks like this is probably going to be back onto Central. And we're back in the same area. But I tell you, we listened to the speaker he just had. I didn't catch his name. But it's got to be really tough for the police. Bruce, thank you so much for that. Because you don't want to just let a guy like this get away as well. I mean, you don't want to set a standard, whereas you drive crazy through the city, we're just going to let you go. Because then you may be encouraging individuals to do that anytime that they get pulled over or get lit up by the police. They'll just run, and they'll know that the police aren't going to follow. So it's really a catch-22. It's a tough situation to be in. The patrol cars are a long ways back right now because you're traveling at such a high rate of speed on Central, but certainly, the area, the slowing there for a moment, did someone get out, or did they give them something? That didn't look like a man, but maybe I couldn't tell. But it looks to me like there's still a passenger. I think they gave them something, and you know what that looks like? A bottle of alcohol. I'm not certain what it would be, but it appeared that that individual, that passenger right there, opened up a bottle of something and took a drink. Oh boy, they're sliding out once again. Open up for me a little bit, Tad, so I can see the oncoming. That looked to me what happened at that intersection. You guys can run it back and see that. I won't be able to see it. That he stopped in the intersection. A man ran up, gave them a bottle of alcohol. I'm just assuming it's alcohol, bottle of something. And immediately the passenger, as they drove down the street, opened up that bottle and took a big chug. Yes, something. No, it doesn't. It doesn't bode well for the mentality on board that vehicle. No, they could have got out. Oh, now he's stuck. Well, see, open up a little bit. Are there units behind him? Are there units behind him? That vehicle is actually stopping him. He could have got out of the way. Okay, you get a little bit if you could, so we can see. He's hitting a. It looks like he's trying to push him out of the way, but it's not working. He's wedged. Yeah, but I think he's trying to push him possibly, and those are the tires smoking. Open up a little bit for me, and be very careful here with this shot, Tad. We do not want to show somebody getting hurt or killed, even those suspects. And if that driver puts that in reverse and goes towards the officers, they are more than likely going to open fire. It looks like right now he's just gunning it and trying to push that pickup truck out of the way. Push in quickly, and it may work. He's slowly pushing. Is there anybody in the pickup truck, or do they have enough sense to get out? Oh, boy, look at this. Look at this. Yeah, but that pickup truck could get away if he wanted to, right? He's actually trying to stop the guy. So that's a big mistake. The police don't want you to do that if you just saw that. But it looks like there may be damage to the vehicle. It can't travel that fast. Yep. And you can almost see the panic on the passenger's face there. Well, didn't look like panic there. I thought it was going to be, but there's got to be a lot of panic knowing now that this is going to end soon. Could you open up a little bit for me so I can get an idea what the patrol cars are doing behind them? But, yeah. Correct. And, in this case, it looked like that was effective, what that individual did, that citizen, that civilian in the vehicle. But they certainly don't want you to do that because you're putting yourself in harm's way. This vehicle is going to get uncontrollable here in a minute. What's dicey now is how this ends. And if it ends in gunfire, we're around homes. I mean, if they get out and they threaten the police, or if they're armed and it ends up in a shooting, you just hate to see an innocent person hurt or killed. And the vehicle is certainly slowed. There's difficulty. The tire just came off. So it's on the rim on that left side. This should be over in a moment. We hope no one gets hurt. And, of course, people outside trying to film it. Yep. I thought I saw it, and then I noticed it was the opposite. Yeah, you got to wonder. Yep. Seen him catch on fire. Yeah, I think it'll be dependent on how fast that individual can get this vehicle going. But I've actually seen this before. Once it's on the rim, there'll be enough heat. It'll catch on fire, and then what'll happen is the rim will disintegrate. It'll go right down to the axle, and then the vehicle can't move. So they're going to be content more than likely to just back off as far as the vehicles are concerned and wait till this vehicle can no longer move, because that time is coming. Oh, look at that. It's pretty high speed. Yep, yeah, with no tire on the rim. I can't see that this can continue that much longer. There was a pursuit I covered one time with a Range Rover that was on 4 rims, and it went on forever, it seemed like, up on the 101 up towards Santa Barbara. But in this case, I just don't think that this vehicle is going to be able to travel for long on that one rim without it just collapsing onto the axle. And when that happens, it won't be able to move. And at least we're seeing speeds now that aren't that dangerous to the public. You were blocked there. Could you say again, Philip? Yeah, several times. This is Grand. It parallels the 110 freeway just to the east side. And it looks like we've got some information that they will try and do the pit maneuver if they feel that it's safe. You can tell, yeah, it's belligerence. You're absolutely right. It's almost as they're celebrating. Yeah, maybe she wants to get out. At this point, I would think panic is setting in, right? Yeah, you got to think it's close to panic, that they know that they're going to be in handcuffs here pretty soon. And, yeah, there are felony charges on this. I mean, there's so many charges. I think it just keeps going and going and going, you know, from a stolen vehicle to evading to reckless driving to felony hit and run. You know, the driver for certain is going to be in a whole lot of trouble, and they're going to spend a lot of time in jail. Yeah. I didn't see that. Yeah, I'm not certain if something was thrown out there or not. It was kind of hard to see. Yeah, something might have fallen off. I mean, if we get to the other side, I think we're going to see that rim at some point just collapse. Oh, boy. And you can't control the vehicle. We're on Main Street at Gage in South Los Angeles. And once it does stop, you can see how hard it is to get going again. So it wouldn't surprise me that any moment now, if it's clear in front of the vehicle, they'll try and do the pit maneuver because the speed is such that if they do hit it from behind, it'll just spin out. And, boy, that's a dangerous situation for the officers, though. That vehicle spins around, and you're doing the pit maneuver, and you don't know if the suspect's armed or not. You got to figure the adrenaline's going to be high on that one. Yeah. Yeah, a good old General Motors ingenuity there, right? The rear rim is working pretty good. I think that's a Chevy, if I'm not mistaken. But you can see how long it takes him for getting up to speed. But, you know, you start seeing 40, 50 miles an hour with the rim like that. If he tries to make a turn, he will not be able to control the vehicle. and we may see this here, but that rim is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You see that? And when it drops off completely onto the axle, then I think the vehicle won't be controllable. Once it does slow, it's really hard to get going once again. And it is quite amazing that it's continued on this long since the flat occurred. But, you know, it's the last few precious moments for these two. They're either going to end up in jail or something worse, and you see a lot of people still out on the streets there. Yeah, I guess they can get it to that speed, right? Once it stops, it's really hard to get it accelerating to that speed, but it's also going to be nearly uncontrollable if you try and make a turn now. And I believe that police will move in as soon as they have the chance, do the pit maneuver, and end this. We hope that that person that was hit on that head-on collision, we're at Avalon and Florence here, you can tell how slow it moves once it's stopped. It just can't get any momentum. Look at the sparks flying out from that rim. We could see it catch on fire. We've seen that happen before. The rubber there will start to catch on fire, and then it'll spread to the vehicle. 15 miles an hour, it takes a while to get going, and we believe that the police will probably move in and stop this when they can. But at least at this point, we're not seeing this being a huge threat to the public because we're not seeing those 80-mile-an-hour speeds like we saw before. This will be over soon, and like I mentioned, we hope this just ends peacefully, that they just did this for attention, and when they are told to get out of the vehicle, they put their hands up, they turn around, and they do it by the book because you know the officers are pretty hyped up on this. It's been going on for a while, and you know that they don't know if these suspects could be armed, and if they don't obey the orders that they're given by the officers and they make any quick movements, they do what looks like might be reaching for a weapon, they're going to open fire. Yeah. Who thought we were going to see this today, huh? We got this gold Chevy driving down Avalon, and that push into the rim is almost gone. You remember what that rim, oh, there it goes. I think it's going to collapse in a moment. And when it does, remember how big it was when we first saw that just a few moments ago? And it's just disintegrating. And I think any moment now it's just going to collapse. And when that happens, I think that this will end right after that. Jay, if you could, yeah, I was trying to get a message to Jay just for a moment there. If you can have him stay off the frequency, that'd be great. Yeah, absolutely. We are on Avalon southbound, Philip. Open up a little bit for me, Tad. I just want to get an idea exactly what the police are doing here. And you see the patrol cars right behind them. The helicopter is still overhead. At least, and boy, a little acceleration there. You got to think the suspect at this point has the gas pedal all the way to the floor, right? Because it's the only way you can get it up to this type of speed. We're hoping when this stops, they do the pit. It's all over. We're also just, if you live in this area, it's really the area that it's been most of the time in South LA. Just stay inside. This could end in a shootout. I mean, that's possible. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you covered these things. You do this for long enough. You know how dynamic it is. You just never know what's going to happen. But you also have seen so many innocent people be hurt. Now, I hit the brakes there. You saw that rim lock up for a moment. And now it'll take a while before the vehicle can get back up to speed. And if the officer sees the opportunity, usually it's below 35 or 40 miles an hour. Anything above that, they don't like to do the pit. He'll do the pit maneuver. But also he has to make sure there's nobody around. The officer doesn't want to be involved in an action right now or an activity when this is probably going to come to